Hi, everyone. Welcome to People from Cleveland Are Dope. I am Erica Miller. Today's featured person from Cleveland is ChiChi Nkemere. ChiChi is the co-founder and director of strategy of Enlightened Solutions, a social advocacy think tank supporting marginalized individuals. ChiChi is a first-generation American. She holds undergraduate degrees in political science and African American studies from The Ohio State University. ChiChi has over 15 years of experience in asset building and community advocacy. She is a former Teach for America educator and former police reform community engagement specialist. If you have not heard about Project Noir, ChiChi will tell us all about it and how Enlightened Solutions hopes to improve the lives of Black women and girls in Cleveland through their work. ChiChi, welcome to People from Cleveland Are Dope. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Great. Um, so I like to start off by asking everybody about like where you grew up, what
Sure.
neighborhood you're from.
Sure.
So can you give us a little bit about your background?
Of course. Yeah. Like you said, I am a first generation American. And I think that distinction is really important to me, mostly because as American as I feel and as American as I am, I'm also very, very much so an Igbo woman, an Igbo girl from Nigeria. Both my parents are from the southeastern portion. My dad's from Imo State, my mom is from the old Abia State, and I see myself as an individual that is just as equally influenced by my home here. I'm from Pepper Pike, Ohio, as I am influenced by my roots in Nigeria, in Imo State. So, yes, I am an East Side suburbanite. I'm from the East Side, and I really enjoyed growing up there. I always tell my parents, we had a really charmed life. It was a home with a lot of love and a lot of mutual respect, which as I've gotten older, I've really just been really grateful for. I frequently will say I had the most feminist parents growing up, but that didn't mean that they did not push my sister and I to be individuals that were well informed, well researched, and really confident folks. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
That's beautiful. Which high school did you go to?
I went to Orange and I was also school president. I was a bit of a Susie High School. I really enjoyed school and really enjoyed joining all of the clubs. So I did all of that. And that led me to going to college at The Ohio State University, which to me is probably the best decision that I made. It was big, big school, a lot of spirit, which is something that's important to me, and gave me the opportunity to get a really fantastic degree in three really super focus areas. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to the national champion Buckeyes.
Three national
It was
champions. UDA, we have dance, we have prom, and we have football.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, you're almost forced to have school spirit if you go to the Ohio State University, but we have enjoyed watching them season, so that's been
It's
great.
great. There's nothing better than being a Buckeye. I loved college. I really did. I was one of those crazy Block O students. So the students that you would see on ESPN that would like paint their bodies and be at the game super early, that was me. I
I love
really,
it.
I really enjoyed that. But I balanced it out with doing a lot of political work, a lot of campaign work, and things that to me kind of connected the thread to what I do now, which I could have never in a million years seen myself doing, but I'm happy to do every day.
What did you see yourself doing when you were young?
So I got a triple major. I graduated with a triple major of political science, African studies, and African American studies. And my focus area specifically was electoral politics. So essentially the intermixing of race, electoral politics, and all of the statistics around kind of predicting elections. So I thought I was going to be a pollster or a statistician. I was really interested in that kind of work, talking to people and seeing what would motivate them. And if I wasn't going to be some sort of pollster, I thought I would work on Capitol Hill. So maybe get a law degree, but maybe just write policy for either a senator or a representative in areas that I was really passionate about. And at that time, I was very, very, and still am passionate about education advocacy.
So tell us about what you did right after Ohio State.
Yes. So in my last quarter, had applied to law school and was thinking, okay, I'll just go to law school. I'll take the LSAT and package my application. And I took a class on prison reform by Dr. Michelle Alexander, and it opened my eyes completely. I learned so much from this class. I learned so much from the readings and decided to not go to law school. I didn't tell my parents. And I actually decided to join Teach for America, which is underneath AmeriCorps. So in that class, I learned about third grade reading rates and how the state of California at the time was utilizing a methodology which built prison beds at the rate of third grade achievement levels, which I found obviously very horrifying. And instead of just despairing in my apartment and crying, I said, well, I have to be a teacher. I did not study education. Obviously, my degree is in politics and political science. So I saw an ad from Teach for America, outside I think some building. I grabbed the ad and applied. And after 7 rounds of interviews, I got in and they asked me, where do you want to live? Where do you want to teach? You're competitive. I said, okay, I want to move down to Texas. I want to move down to Houston. And once I got in and completed all those interviews and then graduated college, I think on my graduation day, I told my parents, hey, by the way, I'm moving 2,000 miles away to Texas. Can you guys ship my car? They were not happy.
Oh, wow.
See, I'm a little spunky. I'm a little spunky.
Not on graduation day.
I think it was. I'm almost certain it was like maybe a week before graduation. Like
Oh,
it was
wow.
so close that I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, I may not go to law school. They're like, that's fine. Like, get a job. Like, figure it out. It was a recession at that time. I was like, yeah, but I think I'm going to teach. They were like, no, that is not what you're going to do. Try again. But it ended up being a really fantastic opportunity for me. So I always say Ohio State was the greatest decision I could have ever made because it led me to Teach for America, which was at the time a 2 year commitment in Houston. And I ended up teaching for 7 years. I love teaching. I am a consummate educator. And I think it's because I really enjoyed school. I enjoyed school and I still do. Um, my favorite years were middle school, so I thought I should become a middle school teacher, and I did. So I taught sixth through eighth U.S. history, Texas history, poetry and reading, and English. So yeah,
Wow. I think that's great. Anybody who goes into teaching, I applaud because anytime that children can see someone leading the class who looks like them,
yeah.
it it it's for the best. It's for
Just
our
the
kids.
Yeah, and the additional layer of it was Houston, Texas, so I think HISD at the time was the second largest school district in Texas. And it was overwhelmingly immigrant. So not just Latino immigrant, but African immigrant, Asian immigrants, a ton of Vietnamese,
Wow.
Cambodian. So there was also the added connection with a lot of my students of I'm a first generation American too. I'm figuring this out with my parents too. I'm trying to tell them like, nah, I'm listening to Brandy and Monica. Like, I love rap music, and they're like, that's really different than what we grew up listening to, but that's cool. So it was a fantastic and dynamic as much as I was teaching, it was a learning experience for myself. And I gained a ton of skills. I know
Hmm.
folks have a lot of criticism about Teach for America, and rightfully so. But I think for me and how I was able to kind of matriculate through, it was a fantastic decision. And I'm still very close to a lot of the students that I taught, and they're making me proud every day.
That's wonderful. You
Yeah.
must have loved it because you went far past the commitment of 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay,
loved it.
so once you stopped teaching, where'd you go from there?
Well, really, it was my parents being like, so are you done with this teaching thing? And I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to go to law school, or I was supposed to go to grad school. So I applied to a ton of graduate school programs, a ton. And the one that got back to me the quickest was Cleveland State. And I thought it was a sign. I was like, oh, I have to move back home. I'm a religious person. I'm a person that believes in, not just, Christian, theology, but the universe has a lot in the way that we are moving. And if we kind of pay attention to those signs and honor those signs, you won't be steered wrong. And I was so happy um, to come back to Cleveland. I was kicking and screaming because I didn't want to. But once I got here and realized, oh, I can study public policy, I can study urban design, I can come back here and really hone into um, law school. I went to a year of law school and did pretty well and decided at the time I ended up being recruited out. So I started working for City of Cleveland and the Department of Justice, which is how I got
Okay.
into police reform work. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So tell us a little about the police reform work.
Yeah, yeah. So great opportunity to learn a lot of new skills. And again, teaching middle school is something that I kind of feel like all people should kind of go through. You should mentor, you should teach because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about difficult conversations and how to build an argument. I don't know if you've ever tried to encourage a 14-year-old to study, but that is the hardest thing in the entire world to do because they don't want to. So, learning those skills and transferring them to things like difficult, really hard lined conversations about bringing factions together and factions together around things that are not only traumatic, but fatal. Fatal for police officers, fatal for community members. I was able to hone in a lot of that curriculum building skill to create and kind of analyze public policy in a way that was not just the legal framework, right? Because most people are not reading general police orders, GPOs, and most people don't have a working knowledge of the Constitution as it applies to you every day. So I'm very grateful that I had the background in teaching and the background in education and political science to be able to do this kind of heart community work and hard community work. But I will say that the experience was incredibly difficult. Um, I won't hedge those bets at all. Like it was emotionally taxing. I cried a lot. I learned a lot about my own theories on change, my own theories on civil rights, what that looks like as a person that comes from a Black majority country and only ever thought of Blackness. I only think of Blackness. And to be confronted with a society that we are just such a super minority in this country um, has shifted a lot of my views, and it was difficult. it was really difficult work. And yeah, it's part of the reason why I shifted into the work that I'm doing now. So again, with the spirit of open gratitude and happiness, I'm always very open about it, but I'm gonna tell you it was hard. It was really hard. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us how you shifted into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'll be very honest. I quit. It was a terrible working experience, 0 out of 10. But the work I was doing in the community, I loved. And I've always been, as you can see, the common thread in my life, whether it was working in high school, joining every club, learning everything about everyone, in college, continuing, whether it was politically active, I was college Dems secretary for like 3 years. I really enjoy that work, working on all of the political campaigns to teaching. I realized it's the community is where I needed to be, and that these systems needed and still do need a lot of hard work. And there are a lot of really excellent people doing that work today. I just knew that my skills and the environment that I was in was not working. And at that point in time, I was like, I moved back to Cleveland for something. And Lord, this was good for the time that I was in, but it's not it anymore. So I quit, but I quit and had something. The women that I was working with, I realized I worked really well with. There was a policy director that I worked with in the organization in our police reform work. And we had never met before prior to working in that environment. And we were more different than two people could ever be. She's a white woman, she's 5'11, she boxes, she was going to law school at the time, she's a social worker, and she was homeschooled until her first day of college. We also grew up really differently. She grew up in an extremely rural, extremely impoverished area of Ohio, whereas I grew up in the suburbs. And we found that we just had values that aligned, just locked in. And when we left working with the Department of Justice, we were like, there's something here. We have a lot of ideas. We really enjoy the research that we were doing. We really enjoy systems change. I think we said like maybe we should start a research project. I don't know, but I know that I did not want to stop working with her in a professional capacity. And like I said, we were not friends. We just knew we worked very well together. And that was the creation of Enlightened Solutions. We were just sitting at her kitchen table and we said, let's just start a think tank. Let's figure out ideas, see these ideas that are working out in the world and see if they actually work in real life for real people, specifically for Black women, as we know, are the most marginalized in our society and are super marginalized in a state like Ohio. So how can we create something that actually speaks to that? And almost 7 years later, we've been doing this full time.
That's incredible. So tell us about um, Project Noir. How did
Yeah.
that come about?
So again, another happy accident. Project Noir really came about because we were incorporated in 2018. We got fully funded in late 2019. And at that point in time, we were kind of looking for some sort of project. We had a couple ideas kicking around, but we really wanted to sink our teeth into something that was large, that would take us an entire year. So as I am scrolling on Instagram, as I'm on my laptop, I see a story from City Lab Bloomberg, and I read everything. Everybody knows this. I'm the friend in the group chat that sends all of the news articles all day long. And I'm like, look at this. I see this article and it's like bold and red and it's like Cleveland, the worst place in America for Black women. And I just looked at my phone and I turned my phone around and was like, I don't have time for this. Obviously it is. Let's just keep moving forward. And I'm, just scrolling on my phone more and more, and I see people posting about it. I see people from Cleveland now posting about it. And they're like, can you believe this? This is horrible. This is so terrible. Like, why is Cleveland so bad? You're looking in the comments. And then now I'm seeing, oh, it's Black women I know that are like, oh, I had this terrible experience in a healthcare system, or oh, I know it was the worst. When I moved away, I was able to, get a raise in my position that they weren't giving me here in Cleveland. So I sent it to Bethany, and she's like, Bethany, my co-founder, and she was like, wow, somebody should do something about this. And I was like, I know, isn't that crazy? Somebody should do something about it. And she's like, we should do something about this.
Mhm.
And I think you would have been able to hear me laugh all the way in California, because I was like, girl, just like a white lady. Of course you think we're gonna just do this. You are insane. Paycheck every 2 weeks. What are we doing? A research project about like some other think tank is gonna do that. I'm telling you, I was like laughing, cursing her, being like, girl, you're crazy. It's not gonna happen. And she was just like, okay, I'm gonna ask you the same question in 2 weeks. And she was just very calm about it. She said, 2 weeks. So whatever. We started with a couple of other clients. We were, coming in with money. And then 2 weeks later, she goes, I built a pilot survey. I want you to look at this survey, and I need you to pick it apart. I need you to tell me everything that is wrong with it. And I need you to infuse it with the methodologies that you have learned and in the work that you have done. And I said, oh my God, this is it. You are 110% correct. Because in the 2 weeks that she gave us, that she gave me, really, I heard women talking about, oh, we need to have a Black Women's Summit. Let's have a panel. Um, Pay $25 and I'll tell you how Cleveland isn't the worst place for Black women. I saw all of these really self-serving, not really getting to the root of the problem. The issue is race and gender. The issue is race and gender. I don't know why we're not saying it plainly. A panel with three accomplished Black women on the panel is not changing anything. What we really need to do is talk to Black women. So once Bethany sent me her survey, I actually went through and read the accompanying research that detailed that Cleveland was the worst place in America for Black women. And the one thing that I noticed is that they never actually talked to any Black women.
Mhm.
In the entire research project. They never thought to say, let me ask a Black woman what makes DC a good place to live versus Greensboro. Like it, I'm telling you, it still shocks me to this day.
Yeah, you
And
would think that would be obvious,
which
but
is,
it wasn't. And
which is
thank goodness it wasn't, because you were able to do that.
Well, yes, me and Bethany. So Project
Mhm.
Noir was born of that. We decided to create what is called phenomenological, which is a big word for just qualitative and quantitative. So statistical questions and then also just narrative responses. A survey that asked Black women that were living in Northeast Ohio what it is like in their workplaces, what it is like attempting to gain an education here in Northeast Ohio. And more than that, what their healthcare experiences are. And that essentially is Project Noir. So we did a first pass of research in 2020. That was at the height of COVID. It was a completely digital survey. And we just completed our second pass in 2024.
So tell us about some of the conclusions or the outcomes of the survey from Project Noir 2024.
No
What did
problem.
you find out?
How about you tell me an area, healthcare, workplaces, or education, and I'll tell you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's take um, healthcare.
Mm. Okay.
Um, let's let's talk about Black women's experiences in healthcare in
No
Cleveland.
problem. So the healthcare section is the section that I think a lot of our heart work comes from, because throughout your lifespan, you're going to interact with the healthcare system, whether you want to or not, right? And your health is the one thing that, regardless of money, regardless of access or resources, is almost kind of predetermined, right? So, yes, folks that have more money might have a little bit more healthcare, but it's almost a crapshoot at this point in time. And what we are seeing specifically for Black women is that it actually does not matter your level of education. It does not matter your class. It does not matter how much money you make. Black women overall are receiving severely substandard healthcare access and healthcare experiences within our major healthcare institutions. And why this is super important for Bethany and I to unearth is that Northeast Ohio is looked at as a global leader in healthcare. We are situated at the nexus of four different healthcare systems. We have Cleveland Clinic, we have UH, we have Metro Health. We also have the VA. People always leave out the VA. A lot of us, Black folks, have military families. We are married to military personnel or veterans. And that healthcare experience is also not necessarily reflected whenever we think of healthcare, right? One of the major themes that I found not just disturbing, but the most easily rectifiable is improper pain management.
Mhm.
Healthcare practitioners do not, and disproportionately do not, believe the level of pain that Black women are in. We had instances of Black women talking about nurses, phlebotomists that are using larger gauge needles. We have instances of individuals being like, oh, I can't find your vein because, oh, your skin is dark, right? I can't see it. We have critical issues of individuals when they are in crisis, doctors, healthcare practitioners, accusing them of drug seeking behavior and not the fact that they're in crisis. So, truthfully, improper pain management comes from a larger issue of callousness and a lack of bedside manner. It's a lot of practitioners, and I don't just put this at the feet of doctors and nurses. This includes the receptionist that checks you in. This includes the parking attendant that takes your ticket. This includes the healthcare administrator that is going through your case. If they have improper bedside manner or they have an aloofness or callousness to your issue, you're going to have a terrible experience. And what we've seen in our research is a lot of Black women are receiving substandard bedside manner at times when it is critical care. They're in crisis. Most of us do not ever want to go to the hospital. Most of us do not want to constantly see your primary. But our Black healthcare crisis ends up being really siloed into, oh, it's just a maternal healthcare crisis, when truthfully, across the gamut of any kind of healthcare concern, we're not actually getting the expert standard of care that our counterparts receive.
Did you find that it mattered what the gender or race of the caregiver was?
Yes. So it does matter, but we would love if there are any individuals that would like to fund this specific research, but we would love to do a deeper dive, although there have been a ton of other research outside of Enlightened Solutions. So Boston has a really great comprehensive research study that talks about parity between Black doctors, Black nurse practitioners, midwives, caring for Black women or Black children. That just, you're getting a better standard of care. In our research, you would have to identify your doctor or your care practitioner as a Black person or a person of color. I will say, though, in this particular pass of research, we did receive a couple of different vignettes from doctors that were Black that were giving substandard care within the experience of the patient. But we would say wholesale, when Black women have Black practitioners, they not only are looked out for in better experiences, but we have higher rates of pre-diagnosis. So let's just say you have a cancerous growth. It doesn't get to a more malignant stage. You catch it earlier when you have a Black doctor. You have better experiences, let's just say delivering a child, right? It's a better experience for Black people in general, just because discriminatory healthcare practices, those Black doctors are a little bit more acutely aware of because of some of the lived experiences. And more than that, when you look like your patients, they tend to treat you a little bit more like family, and also give you that standard of care that is excellent, and one that they would give for their own family member.
Let's move to education and what you found in that area.
Yeah. So this section, unfortunately, is a section that people read the least. Um, Folks really hyper focus on workplaces and healthcare, and for some reason, education is the one that they are the least interested in. But for me, and this is me putting the thumb on the scale as a former educator, it's the one that has the most broad implications. Um, we have a line in our report that says discouraging and undereducating Black women and girls in Northeast Ohio actually jeopardizes the broader economic stability of our state. I'm going to say that. If you undereducate an entire subset of a population, your economic stability in that state is completely jeopardized. We're already behind the ball, right? Black women and Black girls have been experiencing an increased amount of isolation within their educational journeys. Isolation from their peers and isolations from the professors and the teachers that are charged with granting them access through education. We received a ton of vignettes from Black women and girls that were talking about and retelling experiences where Black teachers were undermining their self-esteem, undermining their academic aspirations in front of their peers. So there's an experience of a Black woman that was talking about, oh, she really wanted to go into this specific engineering program. And her professor was like, but you will never get in. You won't get in. So there's no need for you to even think about it. And he said it very matter-of-factly. And she ended up dropping out of the program. She ended up not becoming an engineer because she said, well, this guy knows a lot more than me. He knows better than me. Imagine if you actually watered that plant. Imagine if you said, you know what? It's going to be it's going to be hard. No one's ever said becoming an engineer is easy. Let's get you to the point where you can actually do this for yourself, right? We had an experience, 54% of our participants said that they were excluded from educational opportunities, including professional development from their teachers. 54%, meaning just about 700 Black women had that experience.
This just doesn't jive with the fact that so many Black women have so many degrees.
So that's the problem, is that we Black women are overly educated and underappreciated. And I don't just mean appreciation with like a heart. I mean appreciation in the money aspect, right?
Right.
During COVID, we saw so many Black women pivot. They got another degree, another certification, completely exited industries, created their own consulting firms or small businesses. We are an astute people. The problem is our society does not reward our flexibility. They think it's a right. they say, oh, Black women will figure it out, as opposed to Black women are figuring it out. We need to follow them. We need to look at how they are doing it. One of my favorite quotes is, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Whenever women are educated, they reach back behind them and they pull up other people. How many times have you been with a woman that's like, girl, let me tell you exactly how you're going to do this. Let me explain it.
Right.
For for some reason, other folks are just pulling up the ladder behind them. And in Northeast Ohio, we are making getting an education, educational attainment, whether it's professional school of the highest order or you are a 4-year-old in pre-kindergarten, we are making it more difficult for Black women and girls here in Northeast Ohio. And it is specifically based on race and gender.
Well, that's disturbing. And
It
that's
is.
an understatement, but um, thank you for pointing that out to us. And thank you for the work that you're doing in this arena because it needs to be brought to light. So I'm glad that Project Noir is um, showing that this is true. And not just that, but also going on to offer solutions.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how often people will come to me and they'll say, oh, you just hate Cleveland. Oh, you hate Northeast Ohio. You hate it here. Look, I'm from here. My American story starts in Cleveland. Like, I am very connected to this region because this is where I learned to become an American. My parents were not citizens. I am the first. So I feel such a need and passion to give back to the place that birthed me, that gave me a lot of purpose. And we named ourselves Enlightened Solutions because we never start anything without deciding how exactly we're going to encourage individuals within their own areas to build solutions. And we have a call to action for different industries, what individuals and broader industries can do to actually alleviate these problems as we are pushing for systemic change, right? DEI is not going to save us. I know people don't want to hear that, but DEI is not going to save us. What we need is structural change. What we need are hospital systems to overhaul what they are doing because we are paying customers. Our demographics are shifting. We are the customer. We need to be able to empower civic leaders to create protections. We are the ones that vote them in. We need to be able to make sure that we are standing in our power and not just say equity and diversity for diversity's sake. It's more so we are the individuals that are empowering these systems. Therefore, these systems need to be listening to us because it's going to make everyone better and healthier anyway. It's not like this country is lacking in diversity. We are only becoming browner in this country.
True.
So refusing to listen to the demographic shifts is only going to put your industry, your community at peril. So we always start with our call to action is real and it is actionable.
Tell us a few more things that are within your call to action. Like what
Sure.
roles do you see different constituencies playing in trying to make things better?
Well, I know that 92% of us are resting. I've been painting my nails. I've gotten my makeup together. I've been making my home lovely, right? I know
Right.
that 92% of us are resting, and we should, right? For those of us that want to continue this equity fight, for those of us that want to continue pressuring systems, We have a lot of places where you can join in. So again, it's projectnoircle.org, and then you click call to action. The one that folks will tend to gravitate more to is a call to action for elected officials. I'm in a lot of meetings with civic leaders, organizers, and they will ask us, okay, ChiChi, what can we do? And I'm like, well, the first thing you can do, first immediate action is to partner with Enlightened Solutions. You all need research, you need data-driven policies that are going to actually change things that we're seeing within our research. So taking a slice out of it, workplaces, right? Black women are still severely underpaid in Northeast Ohio. We are still making, I think, 58 cents on the dollar. 58 cents on the dollar, meaning at December 31st, a white man from January to December 31st, let's say they make $1. It will take Black women until July or August to make that same amount. That is less money for groceries, less money to pay down student loan debt, less money for a mortgage, less money for healthcare. You name it, you're actually underpaying yourself to your own detriment. So we're encouraging elected officials to really address pay inequity and workplace discrimination. That is the easiest thing that you can do, is say, we have zero tolerance for that. If you are a business that is within these either city limits or county limits or village limits, you need to have pay equity and pay transparency. Once we raise everybody to the same, okay, people can start competing in different ways. An ongoing action that we had for elected officials was, let's just say for healthcare, right? An oversight committee that actually monitors the progress of what you're seeing within healthcare systems. So as you've probably seen in the news, we have a Black maternal health care crisis. Black mothers and babies are having not just terrible experiences, but fatal. Black children are not living till 1 year, right? Why are we not able to know the doctors that may have the worst outcomes for Black women? Why are we not able to know the hospital systems? Because we know they're tracking it. They just don't want us to know. We need to be able to push elected officials, hospital systems, to be able to be accountable to the people that they are paying, or the people that they are treating, because we are paying this to make sure that these systems remain. So how is it that you can make a profit off of our loss, our death, our sickness? We need to be able to pressure systems to do right by us. And sometimes it needs to be financial. Sometimes it needs to be oversight. Sometimes it needs to be policy built.
And not only that, but you're touting yourself as one of the greatest places on earth for healthcare, but you are failing a whole constituency.
I mean, you're treating presidents of countries, diplomats. I
Right.
mean, my husband and I lived in Ohio City, and a lot of the work that I do ends up being downtown. So I'm just driving past Burke Lakefront, and I'm seeing private jet, security. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who is here? Somebody says, oh, it's some sultan of something, something, wanted to get, reconstructive wrist surgery and came to Cleveland, and you're like, that is very cool. And also, Black women still have to go all the way to the East Side to give birth. That's an issue. That's an equity issue. So how exactly are we addressing these issues? I think for individuals that are interested in this call to action, the most important thing is just to keep talking about it. There are so many Black women that took our survey that was like, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only person that had a negative experience at college with a professor, or a workplace issue where I was underpaid. Think of all of the Black women that have shame about that. Oh, I learned that I was paid $30,000 less than the woman that works down the hall from me, and I have a degree over than her. There's a lot of shame in not speaking about it. So speaking about these problems really kind of breaks down those silos. And more than that, Black women are able to find community.
Speaking of speaking about it,
Yes.
I learned about Enlightened Solutions because I listened to the Friend Zone podcast,
Ah,
and Hey Friend Hey was talking about it, and I heard Cleveland and my ears perked up. And I was like, what? What? This is great.
it was
And
an
so tell us
amazing.
about how that came about.
Again, serendipity in the universe. It was a fantastic experience. Fran is I'm like talking about her like she's my friend. She's not. She's a superstar.
But
Um,
she's all of our friends in
I
our
know, I
heads.
know. But truthfully, we were able to work really closely for the better part of a year, um, almost a year and a half ago. Yeah, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, on a podcast called Living for We Season 1. So definitely check that out. Living for We Season 1. Run up those numbers because it is really brilliant podcast that truthfully just interviewed Black women in Northeast Ohio about their experiences. But getting linked with her was incredible. Idea Stream had an idea, actually, NPR National had an idea about a hyper local Cleveland story. A really fantastic veteran journalist here, Marlene Harris Taylor, got this tip that, oh, somebody from HBO, she does podcasts, is interested in producing. And Marlene just said to me one day, this is based on your research. Do you want to be a part of this? We said yes, signed the contract. And then Marlene was like, oh, yes. And there's this woman, she does a podcast. I don't know, something, Fran, I don't know. And I said, Fran who? And she's like, Fran Medina. I said, oh my gosh, she has a podcast I listen to. She did the Insecure podcast. I have been a fan of hers since, gosh, back in my like old school YouTube days, back in my dorm. And she was brought on to be the digital architect. So she did a lot of the narrative storytelling, the feel of the podcast, and she was sent our research. And she really enjoyed the research and said, let's build out a podcast around this. And we ended up winning a 2024 Webby Award. We won a Edward R. Murrow Award for our podcast. And it was a fantastic experience to highlight the Black women that are in Northeast Ohio, trying to breathe, trying to raise families, being high achievers at work, but more than that, just being Black women, which was, it's incredible.
Yeah, truly incredible. That is,
Yeah.
it's amazing how things just happen, how the universe brings people together. And so I'm so glad that I was listening to that episode, and
Yeah.
it brought me to recognize the work that you all have been doing.
Well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you
Fantastic.
had listened, and more than that, that folks find this work because I know it's not easy. Like I know I smile my way through this work because it's what God put me on earth to do is to wake up every morning and say, how can I advocate for Black women? But I won't lie, it is difficult to read. It is difficult work. It's traumatic. But God, isn't it amazing being a Black woman? Like, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. And I just believe that we have an opportunity to make things better for the generation behind me, the generation behind them. Um, for our society to just be able to thrive. We have so many brilliant ideas if only folks would put their microphones down and started listening to us.
Mm, that's that's a great way to put it. Um, I just want to turn back a little bit
Of
to
course.
something positive and ask you, what are three things that you really love about Cleveland?
Oh, I love this question. My friends joke with me that I am truly a Cleveland evangelist. Like I love living here. I'm very obsessed with being, from the East Side suburbs. I still love my high school. And I'm proud to be from here. Three things that I love about Cleveland, that was the question. First and foremost, as a tourist, I'm a foodie. Yeah. Are you a tourist? Okay.
I am indeed. I'm a May baby.
So am I. I'm May 16.
I'm May 14th.
Okay. As a tourist, I am a foodie. I love a restaurant. I love also making food. My husband will say I'm a damn good chef. Like I'm a good cook.
Right
Um,
on.
so one thing about Cleveland is that we have a thriving culinary arts community. Um, in general, the arts, that would probably be my second thing, but just food wise, we have an incredible food scene, and our food scene is very, at least in my opinion, it is uninfluenced by national trends. So a lot of people are doing so much. Let's fuse this and this, two things that shouldn't ever be on a plate together. Let's fuse this. Cleveland is very much so corned beef, sauerkraut, you get your exact Polish boy, or it's very much so like our Black barbecue scene is very specific to Cleveland. Um,
Absolutely.
so I love our food scene a lot, and I love how very much so we're like we don't care what New York is doing. That's great for
No.
them. But more than that, we have a ton of James Beard nominees that just came out with a lot of these awards. So, like, we're doing a lot of good things here, food wise. I would say, secondly, the thing that I love about Cleveland is the fact that if you can make it in Cleveland, you can really make it anywhere. This place is tough and it makes you tough. It's very
Yes.
take no, I don't know if I can curse, but take no
Yes.
of a place. And folks here are very protective about their energy, which I think it can be a good thing where you are not overly influenced by everybody else. You're not overly influenced by trends. And I think it makes us a pretty resilient city. I will say that it makes us a little crazy sometimes when it comes to our sports teams. We tend to be loyal to a fault, but it's a city with an incredible amount of grit and resilience um, that I like. And I think the last thing that I will say that I love about Cleveland is that this is a Black majority city. I am so blessed to be a part of and to have been raised in a city that everything about Cleveland is Black. It's just Black. And Black African, Black Latino, Black American. The city is Black, and our culture, as much as folks want to make it beer and pierogies, it's East Tech, it's the Battle of the Bands, it's our homecomings, it's what makes us us and what makes us special. And I'm happy about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great answer. I love it. I love it. I love
Thank you.
it. So, what's next on the horizon for Enlightened Solutions and for you personally?
Oh, I love that. Well, my word for this year is I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. My word for this year is yes. It's be open to what is out there.
Hmm.
And not try and be as strategic and closed as I normally would like to be.
Hmm.
So, as it relates to Enlightened Solutions, we are really open to opportunities for partnership. We've always been an organization that is incredibly collaborative. Like I said, my co founder is a just a brilliant woman that I'm just very lucky that God allowed our paths to cross, because we are able to really sink in our roles in different ways that are so complementary. So, like I said before, her being a social worker and an employment attorney, and a white woman, she is allowed to be in certain spaces and rooms where I don't have to bear that microaggressive brunt. She does that. And on the opposite end, I'm able to be in rooms and be authentically myself, and she is able to support. So for Enlightened Solutions, it's that how can we find spaces, places, and people where we're able to be collaborative with our work and allow this work to be rooted in Black womanhood. There are a lot of folks that are like, do this for our group. And it's like, it's not done for Black women, so it won't happen. When we solve it for Black women, it'll be easy enough to solve it for anybody else. But until the problem is done,
Mhm.
that's where our group and where our organization will be and has been. So yeah, just openness and collaboration for Enlightened Solutions. So on Monday, we will be at City Council speaking to the Black Women and Girls Commission, which I'm excited about. We wrote the prospectus for that department to be created. So now to see it flourishing, it's fantastic. So we'll be presenting about Project Noir, and you'll see other things on socials.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing the success of that commission.
Exactly that. Exactly that. It's the first in the nation. I want more people to understand that this is the first in the whole country that only focuses on Black women and girls.
Mhm.
That's it. And all aspects of Black womanhood and girlhood. And that's something that we should be incredibly proud of. And more than that, that is something that is very exportable to other cities. Like,
Oh,
that's a money making opportunity to be
oh
able to
yeah.
tell other people how to do. So hopefully folks are interested in that work. And then personally, I am such a lover girl. I am one of those people that's very obsessed with their husband. I will say it's mutual. We are very obsessed with each other. So
I love
um,
it.
he's the best. So just in general, just continuing on, I think it'll be our second year of marriage.
Oh,
So
you're still a
I
newlywed.
know I'm floating on cloud nine.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
Well,
So just
you know,
enjoying more restaurants and stuff and travel with my husband.
good, good. What's your favorite place to travel to?
Oh, so my husband planned an incredible honeymoon last year. The first leg of it was in London, England. So we spent some time there, and that was amazing. I loved it.
Mm.
I geeked out. I dragged him to every museum. I really went everywhere.
I
Then we
love
ate
it.
a bunch, and the majority of our honeymoon was spent in Mauritius. So we were off the coast of Africa on the eastern side. It's a tiny, tiny country. It's smaller than the state of Rhode Island. Yeah, and it was just a peaceful, gorgeous, very romantic getaway and very quiet, which I loved. So I would say Mauritius is that's our spot in the world. That we
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, I
Thanks.
wish you much continued success.
Thank
I
you.
will be watching, and I hope everybody that watches our conversation will stay tuned for all of the greatness that is to come from you and Enlightened Solutions. And looking forward to watching you making life better for Black women and girls in Cleveland.
I received that, and
What a beautiful mission you have.
I I am only reflecting the beauty that Black women were able to pour back into me, truthfully. I feel very, very, very lucky.
I get
So
that.
thank you. And thank you for this. This is a great
You're
interview. Fantastic.
welcome. Okay, we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Absolutely marvelous. All right.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
bye.